Greetings, dear subscribers and casual listeners of my channel. Any good story, one way or another, is made up of details that directly influence each other. The words and actions of the characters, their thoughts, and even their feelings. All of it should guide the plot as the author intended. And as you might have guessed, Harry Potter falls into this category of works where almost every detail matters. Today, I want to tell you about some interesting parallels in the Harry Potter books and films that add a bit more depth to this story than might appear at first glance. Enjoy watching. Number 1. The Enemy in the Mirror. In the books, there's often an emphasis on the similarities between Harry Potter and Voldemort. Both are orphans raised among Muggles. Both genuinely love Hogwarts and consider it their true home. Each of them was praised by all the teachers, except for one. Dumbledore didn't trust Riddle, and Snape disliked Potter. We won't count Umbridge, as she wasn't part of the main cast. Moreover, both Tom and Harry gathered groups of like-minded people during their school years, the Death Eaters and Dumbledore's army. Dumbledore's army even used Voldemort's experience to create their own version of dark marks, so Harry could summon them at any time. Quote, "Do you know what this reminds me of?" "No, what?" "The Death Eater's scars. Voldemort touches one, and all their scars burn. It's a signal that he's summoning them." "Well, yes," said Hermione quietly. "That's what gave me the idea. But note, I decided to carve it on metal objects, not on our members' skin. Harry Potter and the Order of the Phoenix. And that's without mentioning the most obvious things like Parseltongue abilities or their connection to the Peverils. Number 2. He who must not be named. In the world of Harry Potter, almost all wizards are afraid of Voldemort. This fear is so strong it even extends to his name. He's commonly referred to as you-know-who, he who must not be named, or simply the Dark Lord. If a brave soul dares to say Voldemort, everyone around shudders with fear. J.K. Rowling did a great job instilling awe of the villain simply by showing how characters react to his name. And since this technique worked, why not use it again? Yes, Voldemort is a wizard feared to the bone by other sorcerers, but he has an equivalent in the world of magical creatures. I'm talking, of course, about the Basilisk. This beast is the very embodiment of danger, and encounters with it are nearly impossible to survive. Everything about it, from its deadly gaze to venom that can destroy Horcruxes, tells us this. But most importantly, acromantulas fear even to utter the name of the Basilisk, just as wizards fear the name of the Dark Lord. Not only that, but both also failed in attempts to kill Harry Potter. Number 3. Dangerous books. Since we mentioned the Basilisk, let's talk about Ginny, who opened the Chamber of Secrets and released this monster. Of course, she didn't do it on her own. She was under the influence of Tom Riddle's diary. In the films, they quickly forget that Ginny was once possessed by a Horcrux. But in the books, something I really appreciate, this fact impacts her character. When Harry, in his 6th year, becomes almost dependent on a textbook, blindly following the instructions written by an unknown person, it's Ginny who first sounds the alarm, knowing firsthand how dangerous it can be. Quote, "Hold on," a voice said beside Harry's left ear, and suddenly he caught a hint of that same scent he had sensed in Slughorn's dungeon. He turned and saw Ginny. "Did I hear correctly? You're following instructions from a book written by someone you don't even know, Harry." She looked both worried and angry. Harry understood instantly what she was thinking. "It's nothing," he assured her, lowering his voice. "Nothing like before, with Riddle's diary. It's just an old textbook with someone's notes." "But you're doing what it says?" "Just tried a few tips written in the margins, that's all. Honest, Ginny, there's nothing wrong with it." Ginny's right. Hermione jumped in immediately. We should check it out, just in case. I mean, who knows about these suspicious instructions? Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. Of course, the Half-Blood Prince's textbook turned out to be just a regular book, but the parallel with the diary was still quite striking, especially since, in the end, Harry, blindly trusting his new friend, nearly killed Draco. Number 4. A mother's sacrifice. I've mentioned this before, but Harry literally repeated his mother's heroic act. While Lily gave her life to protect her son, which is why Voldemort couldn't kill him, Harry was ready to die for all the residents of Hogwarts. Quote, "If at the end of an hour you have not come to me and given yourself up, then battle recommences. This time I shall enter the fray myself, Harry Potter, and I shall find you, and I shall punish every last man, woman, and child who has tried to conceal you from me. 1 hour. Lord Voldemort, Harry Potter, and the Deathly Hallows." As Voldemort wanted, Harry went straight to him without any attempt to defend himself. He truly died so that the battle would end. In fact, the conditions were met. And even though Harry miraculously survived, this doesn't change the fact. A magical contract was inadvertently formed, granting the defenders of Hogwarts protection from Voldemort, at least if we believe Harry's own words. Quote, "You won't be killing anyone else tonight," said Harry as they circled each other, gazing into each other's eyes. "You won't be able to kill any of them. I was ready to die to stop you hurting these people." "But you did not." "I meant to, and that's what did it. I've done what my mother did. They're protected from you. Haven't you noticed how none of the spells you put on them are binding? You can't torture them. You can't touch them. You don't learn from your mistakes, Riddle, do you? Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. Number 5. An old dream. The years Harry spent with his aunt and uncle can hardly be called happy. So it's no surprise that he often dreamed that some distant relative would come and take him away from Privet Drive. Unfortunately, this never happened since the Dursleys were his only family. Quote, "When Harry was younger, he had often dreamed that some unknown relation would come and take him away from the Dursleys. But it had never happened. The Dursleys were his only family. Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. At least, that's what Harry believed for a long time. However, in The Prisoner of Azkaban, his childhood dream nearly came true when Sirius offered for Harry to come live with him. Quote, "Of course, if you'd rather stay with your aunt and uncle, but, well, think about it. Once my name's cleared, if you wanted a different home." Some sort of explosion took place in the pit of Harry's stomach. "What? Live with you?" he said, accidentally cracking his head on a bit of rock. "Leave the Dursleys?" "I thought you might take it differently," Sirius said gruffly. "I'm sorry, I just thought—" "Are you insane?" said Harry, his voice easily as croaky as Sirius's. "Of course I want to leave the Dursleys. Have you got a house? When can I move in?" Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 6. A shameful freedom. House elves in the Harry Potter world are slaves to wizards. So for us, Dobby's desire for freedom seems natural and quite understandable. But this view is challenged when we meet Winky, for whom freedom is a disgrace. Quote, "Tonight, Winky has behaved in a manner I would not have believed possible," Mr. Crouch said slowly. "I told her to remain in the tent. I told her to stay there while I went to sort out the trouble, and she disobeyed me. This means clothes." "No!" shrieked Winky, prostrating herself at Mr. Crouch's feet. "No, Master. Not clothes. Not clothes. Yes, Winky is a disgraced elf, but Winky doesn't want pay. Winky doesn't want any more clothes. Winky is ashamed, very ashamed to be free. Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. The fact is, house elves are entirely content with their fate. They don't desire freedom, and receiving clothes is the greatest disgrace for a respectable elf. That's why freedom-loving Dobby, who delighted in his sock and now demands payment for his work, is seen with surprise, confusion, and even disapproval by his fellow elves. To other house elves, he seems like an oddball. Many wizards, accustomed to the elves' servitude, share this view. Number 7. Following in his father's footsteps. Harry Potter was almost a mirror image of his father. From the very beginning, we see that Harry inherited many traits from James Potter, and their physical resemblance is only the beginning. They both have black hair, glasses they both always wear, and facial features that remind those who knew James of his younger days. The only difference is Harry's green eyes, like his mother Lily's, which is important to the story, since Lily's eyes will be a way for him to connect with those who knew her. Harry isn't just a copy of his father. He's an heir who embodies qualities of both parents. Harry's character is also reminiscent of James. Both have an innate attraction to adventure and rule-breaking, which makes them similar. James was a true rebel, unafraid to challenge school rules or those who saw him as a troublemaker. Remember the memory scene where we see him playfully finding ways to prank Snape, showing off his skill and fearlessness? Harry, in a way, continues his father's legacy, diving into adventures just as easily. He sneaks into forbidden places, takes risks for his friends, and, of course, often disregards restrictions. The tendency to get into trouble is another shared trait Harry inherited. Like James, Harry always finds himself in the middle of events. As a child, this brings him trouble, but as he grows older, he learns to handle it. Like his father, Harry becomes someone who draws attention and even inspires those around him to act. Recall the situation with the Philosopher's Stone. Like James in his youth, Harry finds himself drawn into a fight against dark forces, even though he could have just stayed on the sidelines. Interestingly, this parallel is especially strong in Harry's relationship with Snape. Harry isn't responsible for Snape's complicated past with James, but for Snape, the resemblance is too striking. He sees not only James's facial features in Harry, but also his behavior, adding to the tension. Snape admits he hated James and projects these feelings onto his son. Even when Snape begins helping Harry, he still sees James's traits in him. However, when he looks into Harry's eyes, Lily's eyes, his attitude toward Harry shifts. Harry's choice in love also echoes James's. Harry married Ginny Weasley, who reminds us of Lily. This parallel may not have been intentional, but it became significant. The red hair, confidence, independence, and Gryffindor spirit. Ginny and Lily share many similarities. They are both strong-willed and determined, with unwavering belief in their loved ones. Lily once stood up to Voldemort to protect Harry without a thought for herself, and Ginny has repeatedly proven her loyalty to Harry, despite the threats and dangers. Number 8. A pig in a wig. Harry never liked Dudley. His cousin, spoiled and chubby, was a constant torment. Dudley laughed at, bullied, and harassed Harry. To Harry, he was like a small tyrant surrounded by his parents' blind love. In the first book, in the chapter The Vanishing Glass, Harry looks at Dudley and thinks he looks like a pig in a wig. This thought is random, spontaneous, but sharp and memorable. In his imagination, Harry transforms Dudley into a comical animal, almost mocking his behavior. This could have remained just a funny joke, but the magical world of Harry Potter works differently. As is often the case in Rowling's books, random thoughts and images become prophetic. A few chapters later, in The Letters from No One, we find an unexpected continuation of this thought. When Hagrid, the massive, fierce keeper of keys and grounds at Hogwarts, appears on the doorstep of the hut on the rock, Dudley immediately catches his attention. Hagrid notices his greedy look as he reaches for the cake and becomes irritated. Then comes the moment when Hagrid decides to teach the Dursleys a lesson. Uncle Vernon tries to confront him with threats, but Hagrid ignores him. He pulls out his pink umbrella, a fragment of his old wand, and points it at Dudley. At this moment, Harry almost freezes in surprise. His old thought about a pig in a wig is about to come true. Hagrid casts a spell, and Dudley starts howling. The magic doesn't fully take effect, but it leaves its mark. Dudley grows a pig's tail. This transformation gives Harry a surge of joy and relief, as if his offhand joke had come to life in an unexpected twist. Seeing Dudley like this is a moment of justice for Harry. The magical world has answered his unspoken wish. Hagrid, noticing the Dursleys' reaction, mutters, "Meant to turn him into a pig, but I suppose he was so much like a pig already there wasn't much left to do." These words are more than just an excuse. It's a moment of magical irony. Hagrid almost confirms that Dudley was already behaving like a pig, so the spell simply made it more visible. This scene is a classic example of Rowling's magical humour. Her world isn't just filled with wonders, it responds to the inner thoughts and desires of its characters. Harry, used to the Dursleys' bullying and insults, receives a fleeting moment of justice. The strength of this scene is not only in its humour, but also in the hint that magic sometimes takes the side of those who have endured long enough. Number 9. The Suspicious Moody. Alastor Moody is an auror whom readers will never forget. His nickname, Mad Eye, is tied to his magical eye, which can see through walls and detect danger. This eye makes him a true symbol of vigilance and the fight against darkness. Moody is fearless against evil, and over the years he has made many enemies among dark wizards. A veteran of magical wars, he is accustomed to living with risk and is always prepared for an attack. His flask with polyjuice potion and his complex past all emphasize his unique, guarded personality. Moody's strength lies not only in his magical prowess, but also in the image he creates. For the magical community, he is a beacon of hope. People believe that as long as he stands on the side of light, the dark forces cannot prevail. Even at Hogwarts, his presence inspires respect and awe. When Moody becomes the defense against the dark arts teacher, everyone feels incredibly fortunate. After all, who better to protect the students from the dangers Voldemort might bring? But something unexpected happens with Moody. In reality, for most of the school year, an imposter takes his place. Barty Crouch Jr., an escaped Death Eater, assumes Moody's appearance to deceive everyone around him. He takes polyjuice potion daily to maintain this illusion. The real Moody is captured and hidden in a trunk, while his reputation and appearance are used for a sinister plot. This was one of the boldest and most successful deceptions among the Death Eaters. Crouch played the role of Mad Eye flawlessly, easily fooling everyone, even the sharp-eyed Dumbledore. In one scene, he offers students polyjuice potion, taking a sip from his flask in front of everyone. This gesture became a symbol of deception. What seemed like Moody's habit was actually pure trickery. No one suspected that the flask held a secret connecting the imposter to his true identity. Dumbledore, who had known Moody for years, trusted him implicitly. No one could have imagined that the person before them wasn't the real Auror. Barty Crouch managed to mimic Moody's mannerisms so precisely that even the Auror's old friends and colleagues were deceived. This deepens the tragedy of Moody's character. His image represents strength, protection, and loyalty, yet he was defenseless against the cruelest betrayal. There's a certain irony in this deception. The real Moody, a man willing to sacrifice everything to protect the light, was nearly destroyed by his own safeguards. His habits and routines, established to keep him safe, became tools for his enemy. For Moody, the flask was always a symbol of independence and protection from poisons. For Crouch, it was the symbol of his disguise, allowing him to hide his true self for months. Number 10. Full Circle. Harry's story begins on the night Hagrid brings him to the Dursleys. Against a dark sky, Hagrid lands on Privet Drive on a huge flying motorcycle belonging to Sirius Black, the best friend of Harry's parents. This powerful, roaring motorcycle becomes the first symbol of freedom and danger in Harry's life. Hagrid gently holds the infant while Professors Dumbledore and McGonagall look on with sorrow and hope. Harry is entrusted to a world that will bring him cruelty and indifference, but on that night, he is still surrounded by love. Sirius's motorcycle isn't just transportation. It's a symbol of the protectors Harry lost, but whom he would one day meet again. Hagrid, Dumbledore, and McGonagall are like guardian angels for this little boy. That night, Harry doesn't yet know that the loud roar of the motorcycle and Hagrid's giant figure will become a part of his life. But the image takes root as the first reminder of the magical world. Years later, Harry leaves the Dursleys' house to reunite with Hagrid. Now he's grown, and his inner world has grown with him. The home where he spent so many years is now just a memory. He is no longer the child who timidly watched the adult world. He's ready to embrace his destiny. And Hagrid is the one to lead him away from this past. Once again, the motorcycle roars into the night, but this time Harry realizes that he is free. He is no longer an infant, but a young man who has seen death, fought against evil, and accepted his role. Hagrid takes him to face his final journey, full of dangers. This is no longer Sirius's motorcycle. It's a symbol of Harry, ready for the fight. This passage completes a true circle. Harry leaves the Dursleys' house in the same way he once arrived. The Dursleys' home was like a prison for Harry. For years, he felt alone and out of place. Yet, it's there that he learned resilience and strength. Leaving with Hagrid, he bids a final farewell to a world that saw him as a problem and an oddity. On Hagrid's motorcycle, he breaks free from this confinement, finally heading toward his destiny. That's all. Thank you for watching to the end. I hope this means you enjoyed it, and if so, don't forget to like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to the channel.